Yo, what it is, YouTube? Is your boy DC coming back with another bullseye of a tutorial here today on the channel. I just wanted to show you guys the last episode of the series, where we're actually going to be using the Ozone plugins to master. And it's going to be pretty simple and straightforward. Show you a couple ways I like to use Ozone 11 and some of the dope tools inside of it. So if you guys do like the video, you like the free course, drop some comments, show some support so we can keep doing this, where I mix the drums and all that stuff like that and the full vocal. And if y'all want to support the channel, check the links down below. So here we go.
Amo-te não é de hoje, nosso love vem de longe. Quis que pra sempre fosse, mas o love desgastou-se. Ei, voltar pra ti, prefiro dizer não. Marquei com cirurgião, transplante de coração. Danificaste o hurt com tanta desilusão. Posso até ser fiel, mas ser feito de cão. Amo-te não é de hoje, nosso love vem de longe. Quis que
All right, so we have the song right here, and when it comes to the Ozone stuff, I really love like how much it can go from transparency to a little bit of color. So what I used here specifically on my final master for the Ozone mix, I used a little bit of the exciter. Now whenever I first have these plugins, I be swapping my stuff around. I be swapping up stuff around, see what sounds better than the other. So I would always recommend to do that. Play around maybe with the first the module or two, and then you start rotating stuff because the order of operations is going to affect everything. So let's look at it, because this is a full mix and I actually mixed my kick and my bass. I have no desire to really change my low end. You feel me? So I leave that very clean, yeah? And the kick and the bass, everything pretty clean. The low mid, it's mostly maybe the mid range that I might want to, maybe add a little bit more presence to it, or maybe the high end I want to give it a little bit more bite, a dentist appointment, as I like to call it. Show the teeth. I want to floss with it. I want to use some of the Listerine, and maybe give it a little bit more of an expression in the way the music is talking, a fresh breath. So that's why I might use something like the retro. But let's look at what we got right here. It's the typical things where I just scroll through every module. All right, and then I play around with the drive and the mix, and I just play around with those three things and get something that sounds good. Let's see what it sounds like with and without.
Amo-te não é de hoje, nosso love vem de longe. Quis que pra sempre fosse, mas o love desgastou-se. Ei, voltar pra ti, prefiro dizer não. Marquei com cirurgião, transplante de coração. Danificaste o hurt com tanta desilusão. Posso até ser fiel, mas ser feito de cão. Amo-te não é de hoje, nosso love vem de longe. Quis que pra sempre fosse, mas o love desgastou-se. Ei, voltar pra ti.
So specifically here, what I'm going for is like that mid-range glue. You feel me? So I love how it just squeezes everything. Pay attention to how now it feels like everything is starting to come together. And this is not actually using a bus compressor, but just saturation, the way it's smoothing off that waveform of that guitar, the way it's smoothing off, the transients in the vocal and getting it all to just melt like a cinnamon bun, a hot cinnamon bun during the winter. You feel me? So that's what I'm kind of getting right here at that point. And of course, I believe this is adding a little bit of top end energy too.
Amo-te não é de hoje, nosso love vem de longe. Quis que pra sempre fosse, mas o love desgastou-se. Ei, voltar pra ti, prefiro dizer não. Marquei com cirurgião, transplante de coração. Danificaste o hurt com tanta desilusão. Posso até ser fiel, mas ser feito de cão. Amo-te não é de hoje, nosso love vem de longe. Quis que pra sempre fosse, mas o love desgastou-se. Ei, voltar.
So I like how it's emphasizing more of the actual vocal than the guitar, electric guitar itself, and you hear that what it's bringing the top end. So that's another great way to bring brightness to a mix. That's another great way to add sugar to lemonade, is maybe using some saturation. And I like the Ozone retro, but in order to get it to produce that bright type of saturation, I had to drive it. Sometimes I might only use like one or two on the mix bus, something really light, but other times I might drive it really hard and then parallel blend it in there. Next thing that I like to use, this is actually a Pultec emulation from IZOTOPE, and it's the vintage EQ. Pretty self-explanatory. The knob I always use, I don't use any of this other stuff. I always use the high mid boost, and I just love how 5K, 8K, 10K, 12K, they can just really lift up a mix. And I like to open up the high Q, so that kind of like opens up the door. It kind of just spreads it out. It's like Oprah Winfrey, this knob. It gives love to everybody. It really just opens and expands stuff. So the effectiveness, the area of effect of this boost at 8K is also going to spread to 5K, 6K, 10, 9K, 10K, just very gradually, sharing the candy in the classroom for the rest of the frequencies.
Amo-te, não é de hoje. Nosso love vem de longe. Quis que para sempre fosse, mas o love desgastou-se. Ei, voltar para ti, prefiro dizer não. Marquei com cirurgião um transplante de coração. Danificaste o hurt com tanta desilusão. Posso até ser fiel, mas ser feito de cão. Amo-te, não é de hoje. Nosso love vem de longe. Quis que para sempre fosse, mas o love desgastou-se. Ei, voltar para ti, prefiro dizer não.
Okay, so you guys see what that's pretty much doing, self-explanatory. I don't really use EQs like that on my master fader, but that's the exception right there. Cause it just sounds smooth, you feel me? And it just adds crisp. That's the word, crispy. Like when you fry chicken, just that crispiness, you feel me? It gives it that nice KFC skin to it. All right. So after that, I use a stabilizer, and it's kind of like Golfos. Dynamic processor, really dope. You get to control how strong it is in every area. And I like to use the hip hop setting. Sometimes I might use all purpose. I scroll through all of them. Sometimes I might boost, sometimes I might cut. Just so happened this time I was boosting. But still, even though it says that it's boosting, it's still gonna cut in some stuff. It's just really like, being like a pizza man. You feel me? Really rolling the dough and really helping that pizza start to take shape from that thick ball of dough like this to that long flat pizza,
Amo-te, não é de hoje. Nosso love vem de longe. Quis que para sempre fosse, mas o love desgastou-se. Ei, voltar para ti, prefiro dizer não. Marquei com cirurgião um transplante de coração. Danificaste o hurt com tanta desilusão. Posso até ser fiel, mas ser feito de cão. Amo-te, não é de hoje. Nosso love vem de longe. Quis que para sempre fosse, mas o love desgastou-se. Ei, voltar para ti, prefiro dizer não. Marquei com cirurgião um transplante de coração.
And this is a great mixing tool too, in a sense of like maybe actually looking at your mix. Maybe if the Ozone algorithm is telling you like, yo, it's cutting like 2 to 3 dB, maybe in this low mid region, you might want to actually go back into the actual stems itself and maybe try to find what is that conflicting area, or actually like genuinely trying to find like where's that actual overall buildup in the actual stems and actually fix it itself. So that's another great use case to use a plugin like this to actually learn how to mix. You got the widener, we know what it does. Personally, I don't ever like to widen like the lower parts, just the mid range and the upper end. So that makes it kind of better than other wideners. You know what I mean? It makes it better than other wideners because you get to specifically pick where you widen at. You get to get all the good sweetness without any of the negative parts. You feel me? You get all the pros without any of the cons. It's kind of like if somebody told you that you can get $1 million and you don't got to do nothing. You'd be like, wow, I get $1 million without any of the problems and nobody knows, versus somebody says, man, I'll give you $1 million, but you got to stab your mama in the, you got to rob your mother for it. You got to rob your grandma for it. You'd be like, oh, hell no. You feel me? There's a pro of $1 million, but then there's the con of me having to rob your grandma type shit like that. So that's why I think that, whenever you use a tool, you always want to think about, okay, I know it's giving me good stuff too, but what is there any negatives that this plugin is bringing? Okay, maybe this compressor that I put on the master fader, maybe it's gluing my mix together, right? It's squeezing my mix, but now it's giving me the perceived sound of maybe too much bass, too much low end. So that's something to always keep in the back of your head. What's the good and the bad that the plugin is bringing, to the whole mix.
Amo-te, não é de hoje. Nosso love vem de longe. Quis que para sempre fosse, mas o love desgastou-se. Ei, voltar para ti, prefiro dizer não. Marquei com cirurgião um transplante de coração. Danificaste o hurt.
I find myself many times using the imager after the stabilizer because I know the stabilizer is boosting my high end. Now because I'm boosting my high end, I'm spreading it. So it just kind of makes it sound uber wide versus where if you spread the high end with the imager first, then you, let's say you put an EQ after it, it doesn't hit the same way in my opinion. It just hits better. Even if you got different plugins, right, where you boost high end, but then you stereo spread it, and it just makes it feel wide in a very non-harsh way. The maximizer is a great tool. I didn't use it on this mix. I used the Pro L. You know, I go back and forth. Sometimes I use both. But I'll still talk about the maximizer. My favorite part of the maximizer is the upwards compressor. Sometimes I even use it on the two-track beat itself, you know, the maximizer, you know, two-track beat aux, you know, and the upwards compressor is a great way of bringing presence. I'm gonna actually show what it's doing on the beat itself on the actual mix thing, and the clipper is great too when you want to just try to get that last, you know, the last couple drops out of your mix in terms of loudness and the full impact and everything hitting hard. The clipper brings in that, you know, that distortion that it really feels good. You don't ever want to push it too hard. But the beautiful thing about this is you get to pick the high, medium, and low, and it changes the threshold and everything like that. And it, you know, it changes the sound of the clipper, you know. So let's just look at what the actual upwards compression is doing.
Amo-te, não é de hoje. Nosso love vem de longe. Quis que para sempre fosse, mas o love desgastou-se. Ei, voltar para ti, prefiro dizer não. Marquei com cirurgião um transplante de coração. Danificaste o hurt com tanta desilusão. Posso até ser fiel, mas ser feito de cão. Amo-te, não é de hoje. Nosso love vem de longe. Quis que para sempre fosse, mas o love desgastou-se. Ei, voltar para ti, prefiro dizer não. Marquei com cirurgião um transplante de coração. Danificaste o hurt com tanto.
So just imagine Waves MV2, the low level, you know, how you pushing everything at the bottom. It takes all the quiet parts and it brings it up. So in turn, it kind of just makes everything sound more solid. Sometimes, you know, your master fader detail is being lost because you're limiting your mix. Now that guitar on the left, especially if you got a two-track beat, now that piano on the right, it's just kind of feeling faint. It's kind of feeling like it's at the beach. The beach is getting washed away. It kind of feels like that new shirt you took to the laundromat. You threw it in that washer, and now that design on that front of the shirt is starting to be washed away. Like that picture on the shirt is starting to, like, you know, just kind of fade away a little bit. That's what that upwards compressor does. It brings back in that detail that's on the shirt, you know, the picture and all that shit. So yeah, then you have all these different modes of limiting, but the one I consistently use is modern. Always. You can try the other stuff too, but I just like how modern sounds because it feels transparent and it gives that really dope energy to the mix consistently. So this is pretty much the end of the video here today. I'm wrapping up the Ozone course. You know, I showed how to mix a little bit of the beat, a little bit of the vocal, just kind of like not really going too deep into it, but just like what you can do from a rough perspective, taking rough tracks and really getting them, starting them feel pro and mainstream. All right. So I just want to say thanks a lot for being a great part of my YouTube family. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and suggest more ideas down below. Thanks a lot. And check the links to support the channel. Appreciate you guys now. Peace.